welcome or welcome back. My name is Ari, and in this vlog I am going to be reading arcs from November and December. So I only had one arc come out in November and then two come out in early December. All three of these books are out at the time that you are seeing this video, so if you're interested in any of them, they are available now. So in this video, the three books that I'm reading are Waif by Samantha Kolesnik. This is an arc that got sent to me by the author, the very first one I've ever received a physical arc of, which is very, very cool. I'm also reading two books in fantasy series that I got from NetGalley that I've already read the first book in both series, and that is the Bone Shard Emperor and Liar's Knot. I don't remember who the Bone Shard Emperor is by, but the Liar's Knot is by M.A. Carrick, I think. I'm bad with names. You probably already knew that. Anyway, I'll update you on what I think of these books as I read them. So I finished Waif by Samantha Kolesnik, and oh my goodness, was this a wild fucking ride. So this, I'm going to keep the description of it short because it's only about a 100-page long book, but this is about a woman named Angela who is in a domestic abuse situation where her husband is very wealthy, inherited wealth, and he beats her frequently. One day after her husband hits her, she goes to the grocery store and sees a man who is like physically the man of her dreams. And she starts fantasizing about him and then tells her husband about her fantasies. And that leads to this like wild ride of like stalking and plastic surgery and underground, very specific fetish pornography. This is a horror book, so there's like mutilation and sexual assault and things like that, but it's so good but so weird, and it has a lot of really interesting social commentary within the book. I marked a couple of them. One of them was about plastic surgery, and I thought it was kind of spot on. It was strange that breast enhancements, Botox, and lip fillers were okay, but if you combine too many and all at once, it started to become a red flag. What gave these men the authority to grant who could change what? And you know what? That's a really valid question. The other quote was kind of one of those things where you could tell that the main character had been abused a lot throughout her life. And she asked, what made a man? Hatred for women, perhaps? If not hatred, then apathy. And yeah, that's a sad take. A very sad but sometimes accurate take on how men in our society treat women. Overall, this was fantastic, but it does have a lot of trigger warnings in it. It was my kind of weird without any sort of like magic to it. This is one of those books that is horrific in the fact that you could picture this actually happening to somebody, just from the general cruelty of other people. I highly recommend this, but do look up the trigger warnings first because not everybody's going to enjoy this due to the content of it. But very good, highly recommend. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I wish it was longer, but it was still really, really good. Hello, I have finished the Bone Shard Emperor. Let's see if we can get that to look okay. I apologize if you've seen this shirt already. I like cycle through 3 sweatshirts and just wear them around the house all day. So you'll probably see me wearing a lot of the same things throughout this month since I'm filming every single day. But finished the Bone Shard Emperor. It was okay. It definitely was a middle book, and it definitely had some issues. So I gave it 3 stars because I enjoyed it, and I do plan to continue the series, but it's just not like, oh my god, this was so good. Basically in this one, none of like the big plots got resolved. It's just the build up for the 3rd book, and it follows a bunch of different characters, but unless you like read the top or the characters are in like super different lands, it's very hard to tell like which character is speaking. Like they're not unique enough, like their voices aren't unique enough that you could tell it's a different character each chapter just by like instantly jumping in. If you hear the dog in the background, he is currently in timeout and very, very mad that I won't let him bite my feet because it hurts. So he's mad at me for not letting him bite my feet. Anyway, back to the book. Like I said, it's good, and I'm liking the story so far, but it's not like I love this story. And I do plan to read the 3rd book whenever it comes out, and I'm really glad I read this series. So yeah. I guess I should say the cliffhanger at the end of the book, it's like a big cliffhanger, but it's not the type of cliffhanger where you're pissed off that you don't have the next book instantly, where you like have to find out. It's more of like a big plot reveal, and you're like, oh, where is this going to lead? I did not see that coming. But yeah, liked it. I'm going to move on to the 3rd book for this vlog, and that is The Liar's Knot, I believe, by M.A. Carrick. And I do, before I like start reading it, I want to show you this, that this is the best thing that people ever do in books. So you have at the very beginning the story so far, so you can like, if you forgot what happened in the last book like I have, because it's been about a year since I've read it, and I read 200 something books a year, so my memory of this last book's not perfect. I could read through this and get like a quick summary, and I love it when people put it in the books. I don't like it when they just blend it into the story, because if I am reading book after book after book, blending it in the story feels repetitive. But adding a chapter that you could skip if you don't need a reminder, that's a fantastic idea. So going to get into reading this while I deal with the dog bullying me, and I will catch you once I'm finished with that book. Okay, so I finished The Liar's Knot. The cover on my Kindle is not helpful since it's a ARC, but I'll throw up the actual cover right here, which is beautiful. The dog is having a party in the background, so please ignore the crashing noises, I guess. And also, I got my booster shot the other day, so I kind of feel like I've been hit by a truck, so please ignore my appearance. Anyway, The Liar's Knot is the 2nd book in the Rook and Rose series by M.A. Carrick, which is an author duo, and it's a very high, complicated fantasy. The kind of high fantasy that has like 3 pages of names glossary in the front, and then like 8 pages of terms glossary in the back. But it's, even though it's complicated, it's easy enough to like follow along with what's going on. And it's very good, very entertaining. The world building has been done great. The character building is really good. But it does take a lot of brain power and focus to figure out, especially because a lot of the characters have like disguises. So people have like multiple names. And so you're not only keeping track of multiple characters, but you're keeping track of multiple identities of individual characters. One thing that this book does do is it gives you a recap of the first book as like a prequel chapter. So if you don't need a recap because you just read the first book, you can just skip over the prequel chapter. And if you do need a recap, you can run through it. The thing with the recap is it used a lot of terms from the book that I'd forgotten since I had originally read it. So the recap wasn't like the most helpful thing, but it helped with like refreshing myself with like who the major players are and that kind of things. One thing it also reminded me of is the reason I love this book, is the reason I love the first book, and that is the hint at a romance. Let me tell you, this is the first time I've read a book, like, it's not really fantasy romance. There's a romance in the background, and it doesn't even show up really or do anything with that until like 60% through the second book. So if you're going in this for fantasy romance, this is not a fantasy romance, but it's gonna hint a dot of a romance. And I didn't know which guy I wanted her to end up with, because it's like the standard love V, where it's one girl, 2 guys who she's kind of in love with and they're kind of in love with her. And I couldn't decide. And this book helped. This book set me up with a decision, and I'm okay with the decision. I think I would have been okay if it went the other way too, but I like how it turned out. We did get the faintest sprinklings of a romance in this one. This book also has a whole lot of build-up as a middle book for the third book, but it has its own plot. To be fair, the plot of this book didn't even show up until about 60% of the way into the book before I figured out like what the purpose of the book was. But it did get resolved at the end of this to a point. There's still like another problem that they set up for the third book, but this one did solve that problem. So overall, I think I'm gonna give this 4 stars. I liked it a little too long, probably. There's some stuff in the middle that didn't really super need to exist, even though it does. And I enjoyed reading this. I enjoyed both of the books in this series, and the first one came out of a book box, and I never expected to like it or anything like that. So this is why I get book boxes. Anyway, that is it for today's video. Thank you for coming and listening to me talk about arcs for November and December. If you think any of these books or their predecessors, because some of these are in the series, sound good, pick them up. Even order it from your library. Help support the authors. And that's everything for today. Bye.